Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I am Ryan Bowling. Thank you all for joining me once again. So the school board in Florida is being accused of going backwards or stepping backwards due to some new ideologies that they have proposed. And many on the left are saying that they're going backwards or stepping backwards, that this is a regression for Black students in the school systems in Florida. Now, my question is that true? Let's get right into this article and we're going to find out, is such a thing true? And so the article says the Florida State Board of Education approved new rules Wednesday for how Black history will be taught in public schools that critics are decrying as a step backwards. The updated standards include noting that enslaved people developed skills that, quote, could be applied for their personal benefit. Remember now, I'm going to read that again. The updated standards include noting that enslaved people developed skills that could be applied for their personal benefit, and that in teaching about mob violence against Black residents, instructors should also note, quote, acts of violence perpetrated against and by African Americans, end quote. Now, let me speak real quickly on this whole idea. I did several videos some months ago in reference to Ron DeSantis and his opposition to a curriculum that the school board in Florida was trying to push, which we all know is to be CRT, which is an acronym for critical race theory. Now, people can argue that all day. Well, it don't exist. It's a conspiracy theory. Well, keep on letting the mainstream media gaslight you like that. Okay. My suggestion is that you read up on it and find out for yourself. Okay, because it does exist. It's been in existence since the 1970s, for crying out loud. So that shows you right there how much a lot of people really know. And essentially, critical race theory, which may come in different forms and they give it different names, ethical studies and all the rest, to keep people from detecting what the real curriculum and objective is all about. But essentially, critical race theory teaches the idea that white people are inherently racist, that they can't cure their racism. They are inherently racist, which is crazy because part of the people that are actually pushing this idea that white people are inherently racist is white people. Oh my God, that just kills me. And that Black people, okay, are basically oppressed, and there's nothing that they can do about their oppression. That someone on the outside, i.e. the progressive Democrats or progressive government, has to come in and save Black people. This is what critical race theory is all about. It may vary and differ in different areas. It may be the teachers that give this information in the classrooms. They're real sophisticated in the way they present the information, and they're really articulate in the way they explain these concepts. And if people are not familiar with what Marxism really is all about, it will pull them in. And they will honestly believe that, hey, as a white person, I'm really inherently racist and I don't know what else to do. So I got to live my life in guilt and degradation because of something that happened 200 years ago. And Black people, hey, man, maybe I am oppressed and there's nothing that I can do about it. And I need the progressive Democratic government to save me because I don't know where else to go. That's what critical race theory is all about, okay? Here, the updated, now, let me go back a little bit. This is what Governor Ron DeSantis was opposed to in Florida, okay? And they were also trying to push the LGBTQ plus community concepts into the Black history curriculum. Okay, they were trying to push that into the Black history curriculum as if that was a part of Black history. And let's be realistic, man. Let's be realistic. Before I go any further here, that is not Black history. True, there are gay people and transgender people that are Black, but that's not Black history. You can see clearly, anyone who understands and has any level of judgment can see clearly that these liberal progressives in the school systems are trying to push these ideologies onto the students, these debased ideologies onto the students. Anybody should be able to see that. And the crazy thing about all of this is that once again, the mainstream media gaslights it. Oh, it's not there. It's fake. It's not real. There's no such thing as critical race theory. Oh, go back to go back to your matrix. There's no such thing. But the reality of the matter is that you had parents, black and white, crying out against this whole CRT push upon the schools. Now, if it was fake and if it was a conspiracy theory, then why would adults, black and white, okay, waste their time to come up with some concept of critical race theory? Let's create some kind of concept of critical race theory because we don't have nothing else to do. We don't have jobs to go to. We don't have any of that. We don't have mortgages to pay, rent to pay, car notes to pay. We don't have any of that. We don't have children to take care of. Let's just make up some concept called critical race theory and waste our time and everybody else's time because, hey, we want to be on TV. That is the dumbest thing in the world. It's real. And why would parents push against it if it was fake? So the mainstream media is poison, man. People need to just stop watching it, period, because it's deadly poison. However, let's go on. That is what Ron DeSantis was pushing against. That is not black history, okay? But let's go on. These standards, the article says, are a disservice to Florida students and are a big step backwards for a state that has required teaching African-American history since 1994. The Florida Education Association, the state's largest teachers union, said in a statement. Now, they say here that these standards are a disservice. Let me ask you this question. Let's go back. According to the updated standards included in this that enslaved people developed, says that they developed skills that, quote, could be applied for their personal benefit. How is that a step backwards? How is it that enslaved people at this time developed skills that could be applied for their personal benefit? How is that a step backwards? Explain the logic in that. See, this is what Marxists do. They take what is normal and they flip it on its head to confuse people, make people think, man, maybe there is something wrong with that. But just listen though, they develop skills that could be applied for the personal benefit. How is that a step backwards? Explain that to me. They learned certain skills. Some of the slaves did learn certain skills, such as, and their slave masters taught them these skills: carpentry, sewing, landscaping. Not all the slaves learned these skills, but some of them did. And they were able to capitalize off of those skills. That's true history. That's history. So how is that going back? How's that a step back? You see how stupid they sound? You see how stupid the progressives are? Unbelievable, man. They don't want you as a black person to truly be educated. They are against you being educated. They want you to be a clown. But let's go on. The standards are the latest developments in an ongoing debate in Florida over how black history should be taught in school. Also, let me say something too. This black history has been taught in Florida since 1994. So clearly black history was being taught. So no one can argue, well, they didn't want to teach black history. Clearly it was being taught. The problem is that Ron DeSantis was pushing against critical race theory and all these ideologies, these leftist, liberal, Marxist ideologies they were trying to mix in with black history and call it black history. That's what he was pushing against. Let's go on. Now, if you want that kind of stuff, then go to Florida and get in. I'm dead set against it because it's not black history. It's Marxism, but I'm going to get into the details of that later. Says the standards are the latest development in an ongoing debate in Florida over how black history should be taught in school. Earlier this year, the Educational Board rejected a new advanced placement high school course on African-American studies, which I just mentioned earlier, arguing it lacked, quote, educational value. And it did. It was not educating blacks and whites about American black history, but let's go on. Under Republican presidential candidate and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' leadership, the state legislature also passed a law that forbids teachers from offering instruction that makes other students, quote, feel guilt because of actions committed by others in the past. And this is what critical race theory does. Like I said earlier, it comes under different names. It may not say on the curriculum sheet critical race theory. It may say ethical studies or whatever. But when you listen to the teachers teach, you know that's what it is. They give it these different names and different titles to throw you off. so that you won't detect it. They're very, very clever and highly sophisticated in the way they do these things. The devil is highly, highly intelligent, okay? But it says instructions that make other students feel guilt because of actions committed by others in the past. This is what they do. They make, the purpose is to make white people feel overly guilty by focusing on all the negative concepts of America, slavery and what happened, and taking certain elements of slavery or certain elements after slavery that were negative for black people and hyping it up to the point where blacks become bitter and angry in the class. But let's go on. Education officials opened a public hearing in Orlando on Wednesday saying opponents to the new standards for teaching black history were perpetrating a, quote, false narrative. Education Commissioner Manny Diaz says the state would continue to, quote, teach the good, the bad, and the ugly of American history in an age-appropriate manner. And I agree with that. I agree with that. Black history in America and American history in general should be taught. Everything should be taught about it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Anybody would understand it should know that. Slavery was clearly a very dark period in American history. And it is to this day considered to be one of the most oppressive slavery regimes in human history because of its psychological effects on the slaves. Okay. So that's the dark, ugly part of American history. And yes, it should be taught in the schools. That's part of American history, and that's part of black history, okay? But when you focus just on the ugly, the bad, the ugly, and then when you mention the good, you just mention the good in a fleeting way, what do you think the students in the class are going to think? They're not going to think about the good. They're going to think constantly about the bad because the teachers are constantly focusing on the bad and how slaves were treated. And even after they were released, how they were persecuted, how there was this and white people this and white people. That's all designed to cause guilt upon white people and to cause black people to get angry and feel like they need to get at the white person. It's designed to foster dissension between the groups. That's Marxism 101. Let's go on. More than a dozen speakers at Tuesday's board meeting opposed the changes, including Senator Geraldine Thompson, who helped pass a law in 2020 that requires schools to teach lessons about the Ocoee massacre, O-C-O-E-E. Okay. The incident in 1920 began when several black residents attempted to vote and ended with at least as 4 and as many as 60 people dead, making it the deadliest instance of election day violence in U.S. history. And I'm pretty sure that happened. Of course it happened. But he says pass a law that requires schools to teach lessons about this. Why would you focus a lesson on this kind of incident? What's the purpose of that? What's the purpose? Why would you, it says to teach, in 2020, is the one where this person wanted to, let me see, let's go back. This senator wanted to help pass a law in 2020 that requires schools to teach lessons about this form of massacre where it happened in 1920 where almost 60 people died. Why would you focus on that? Why would you do that? Why would you focus on that? I'll tell you why they focused on that. I'll tell you why they wanted to focus on that massacre and have students learn about, you need to learn about this, right? You need to learn about this. I'll tell you why they did it. Because the purpose is to make black students angry, frustrated, and mad at white people in general. I've seen this time and time and time again where I work, people that I deal with, they walk around, black people walk around with a chip on their shoulder, and not just a chip on their shoulder, but a boulder on their shoulder, a log on their shoulder because of something they heard in school. Now they're walking around radicalized, angry, and ready to shoot and kill white people that had nothing to do with any of this. Don't you see what's going on? Don't you see we are being divided against each other? It's amazing how I can explain this to people, show them the evidence, give them all the understanding, and they still refuse to see that. That's on you. I did what I'm supposed to do, and the person can receive it or reject it. It's the truth. Let's go on. Thompson said the new standards amount to, quote, blaming the victims. Bull crap. They're not blaming the victims. And that's the end of that article right there. That's all I'm going to get right there. That's about the end of the article right there. But this is a bunch of nonsense. What they're saying that this is a step backwards. It's not a step backwards. Ron DeSantis was just simply attacking a false narrative that these teachers and the Board of Education there were trying to push in the Black history curriculum. Getting an education or learning skills, or these slaves learning skills, is not a step backwards. That benefited them. That's not a step backwards. I'm going back to that. That's not a step backwards. How's that a step backwards? The problem is that these individuals are mad. They're mad because of these new changes. Ron DeSantis wasn't going for it. No, we're going to stop that, because all you're doing is you're making white people walk around feeling horrible and guilty, and black people walking around angry and feeling like that nobody, angry, because really it's not all about, it's not just merely saying to black people, well, you're an oppressed people. Never mind individuality, because see, the left does not believe in individuality. They believe in the group census, because to acknowledge individuality would break up their whole concept of oppression. So forget about individuality, okay? Forget about everybody's different and everybody have different experiences and different individual histories. Forget about all of that. If you black, you are oppressed, because you make up this whole system, this whole group. That's how that functions. That's how they function. So they push this rhetoric on black people, and black people are walking around, black students and children are walking around mad and angry. Just the other day, I was watching a news article about some man. I can't remember exactly where it happened, but he went and shot and killed 4 white people. Now, whether or not it was race related, no one knows. But I find it interesting that he was a black person and these four people were white people. He was an older gentleman, though. But the point is that there are people that have been black people that have attacked white people based on their race. And when you hear this kind of stuff in the schools, and you go to colleges and campuses in school systems, whether it's from kindergarten to the 12th grade or universities, and you hear professors pushing this kind of rhetoric on the students, what do we expect is going to happen? That is not black history. Let me end the video on this and explain to you what black history really is on this note. Black history in America is where you incorporate all the elements of what happened to black people in the past. Black history incorporates the good, the bad, and the ugly of black history from slavery to the present. You focus on their sufferings. You talk about the sufferings of blacks and their accomplishments. That's what black history is. Talking about the sufferings of blacks in America and their accomplishments and the individuals that went about doing these type of things. We all know about Martin Luther King and all the rest. Okay, we know about Frederick Douglass and all these people. Some people don't know about Frederick Douglass. But we know about Frederick Douglass, who was a Republican. Oh, yeah, I'll throw that in there. You don't believe me? Look it up. All these type of accomplishments, as well as the negative aspects of slavery, should all be mentioned. But that's black history. Black history is not LGBTQ plus and all this kind of stuff. Black history isn't transgenderism. It may be black transgenders, it may be black gays, but that is not black history. That is the Marxist attempt to poison the minds and hearts of the young people in these school systems, to corrupt them. That's the purpose behind that. And that's what I wanted to end the video on there. But this is not a step backwards, as far as I'm concerned. This is just simply telling the truth of black history like it should be taught. Teach black history and leave it at that. And stop trying to inundate our young people with nonsense. And that's all I have to say about that. What do you guys think about this article? Do you think this is a step backwards or what? They push. You think that's a step backwards or what? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all. See you again.